As a young person, I remember being smart when it came to bushwalking, seeing that we were following a path, but then looking ahead and see, well, the path turned around and we could take a shortcut through the bush. It was only a short distance, it was a steeper climb, but it was a shorter route. And so, being a young person, one thinks it's smart to take the shortcut. Of course, the path is there for a reason. If everyone took the shortcut, you would first of all be damaging the environment. But the second thing that happens on the shortcut is that the way is not clear. You're more likely to slip, you're more likely to injure yourself because of the plants that are growing there, the thorns and thistles, the snakes and leeches. I guess Solomon thought about this as well, for he said in Proverbs 22 verse 5, "Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards his soul will be far from them." The scriptures frequently refer to life as a journey and indicate that God has a path for us to follow. But if we take shortcuts, if we do not follow the path, then we encounter troubles. Here there are thorns and snares. There's a lot of concern of terrorism today because the enemy plants IED, explosive devices, in the path, along the road and beside the road, that when you tread there, they will blow up and kill you or blow off your legs. And so one needs to be very careful, particularly in this battle situation, of following the safe path. And then you're safe. But if you don't follow the path, then thorns and snares are in the way. And it takes a skillful person in the war context to ascertain a safe path through the minefield. Life is a minefield because Satan is out to destroy the honour of God. And he does that by getting people to step off the path. There are many attractions for going off the path, but the bottom line is, it is dangerous, and it is a trap, and you'll be in trouble. He who guards his soul, Solomon says, will be far from them. There's the thought presented in the story of Job, who was a very faithful man, who guarded his soul and kept very close account with God, so that God was able to boast about his servant Job, even to Satan. Now, Satan complained that he couldn't get to Job because the Lord had protected Job with a hedge around him. Well, the hedge, of course, was the instructions that Job received and understood about how he should live his life in righteousness. Job kept to the right path, so Satan had no opportunity to get to him. That same hedge applies to everybody who seeks to walk closely with the Lord, that they do not get into the position where there are problems. There's been huge problems in modern society of abuse of people, and that abuse happens in private. That wisdom is now accumulated in various bits of legislation so that carers and vulnerable people are protected. So that if you are working with a vulnerable person, you must do so in the presence of others, so that following certain protocols. That is, the path has been mapped out so that you can still care for people and people can be cared for, but the snares and traps are avoided. You're guarding your way. It's like the previous proverb we saw in verse 3. A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself. You know that you're not going to do something wrong, but you also know that you are interacting with other people and they may do something wrong. Therefore, you need to make provision for protecting your way. So here, he who guards his soul will be far from them. Well, how do you guard your soul? Your soul is that emotional part of you. It looks for friendship, it looks for support, it looks for fun. It doesn't like being sad, it likes to be happy. It is the likes of our life and the dislikes of our life that influences our soul. And our soul is closely related to our spirit and body. The modern saying is, if you want to do it, it doesn't harm anybody else, you do it. That's taking down the guards, the fences around the soul. The fences around the soul are guidelines of behaviour, which the enemy says destroy your fun or take away your chance of enjoying yourself, remove your pleasure. But there is no pleasure in thorns and snares that come when you get off the path. There might be some immediate gratification, but more likely what we hope to achieve by getting off the path we don't actually achieve. And then we've just got out of a zone of safety into a place of danger for no gain. It's another case of there is a way that seems right to a man, but the ends thereof are the ways of death. Then you're in a position where you have a great price to pay to get out of the mess that you've put yourself in. A common stepping off the path these days is people who start living together but without getting married and without making the commitment to one another that marriage involves. Another is pursuing wealth or status. Verse 4 said, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches, honour and life. But we take shortcuts and in pride and rebellion against God seek after these things. Paul tells Timothy, the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. And John tells us, do not love the world or the things that are in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world is passing away, and the lust of it. But he who does the will of God abides forever. So how do you guard your soul? By always doing those things that please the Father. Satan has filled this glorious and wonderful world with lots of wonderful things which can distract us from doing the will of the Father. Eve saw that the fruit of the tree that she was told not to eat from would be good food, it would be pleasant, and it would make her wise. So she took of the fruit. But the consequences is that sin came into this world, and sin has brought so much pain and suffering, both to herself, her oldest son killed her second son, and to millions and millions of people thereafter. There was a huge price to pay. The thorns and thistles came from the ground. As God said, you'll have to till the ground and deal with the thorns and thistles, because you left the path. Money is a large component of the lusts of the world. The pride of life, position, honour before men, of being loved, of being accepted. People are challenged to do things so that others will accept them. They know that they're wrong, but they want that acceptance, so they do them. But the consequences are horrific, and they bring thorns and snares into our lives. A thorn just tears at the flesh. A snare actually entraps you, and you need somebody else to get you out of that mess. And so, how do we guard our soul? We need a new heart. We need love of the Father. We need the will of God. And we need to do it, and to put to death the desires and lusts of the flesh. For they will die anyway, but they will cause us much pain and suffering if we give in to them. How do we know what is the path to walk? Well, Jesus says, follow me. The right path has enough difficulties in it without us taking a shortcut. Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards his soul will be far from them.